هریتیج بانکرز با مدیریت شهرام الیاس‌زاده با سابقه ترین بانکر ایرانی آمریکایی در خدمت جامعه ایرانی آمریکاست.
دنیای ما، جامعه ما.
Our world, our community with Debbie Amini.
با سلامی گرم و درود فراوان به شما شنوندگان عزیز رادیو ایران KIRN، امیدوارم که ساعات خوشی رو تا این ساعت از روز سپری کرده باشید. من دبی امینی هستم و با همکاری کارگردان فنی خوبمون خانم زهره نگهبان میزبان میهمان عزیز Councilwoman Jan Perry هستیم. Councilwoman Perry, welcome to our show, our world, our community, and thank you for dedicating your time to our listeners.
I'm very happy to be here and thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. یادآور میشم که این برنامه است غیر تبلیغاتی و هدیه‌ای از رادیو ایران جهت آگاهی رسانی از مطالب مطرح روز. Councilwoman Perry در قسمت دوم برنامه پاسخگوی سوالات شما شنوندگان عزیز خواهند بود و من تلفن‌های تماس با استودیو رو در قسمت دوم اعلام خواهم کرد. و اما دوستانی که علاقمند هستند که ما رو به صورت زنده از طریق یوتیوب مشاهده کنند میتونن به KIRN رادیو ایران 670 AM لایو استریم سری بزنند. خب اگر اجازه بدید من معرفی کوتاهی از میهمان امروز خدمتتون داشته باشم و بعد میپردازیم به مصاحبه‌ای با این عزیز در رابطه با مسئولیت‌ها، فعالیت‌ها و خدماتی رو که ایشون میتونن به شما عزیزان ارائه بدند. Councilwoman Jan Perry is a candidate for Los Angeles County Board of Supervisors, District 2. She served as Los Angeles City Councilwoman for the residents of District 9, which includes downtown, Little Tokyo, and South Los Angeles. During her 12-year tenure, Councilwoman Perry led many projects such as Los Angeles Live, the Cathedral of Our Lady of the Los Angeles, and the new Police Administrative Building. She brought in $15 billion in investment, $52 million in net new tax revenue for the city of Los Angeles, and approximately 90,000 full-time jobs. As a result of her leadership, downtown is one of the most desirable and sought-after residential and commercial destinations in the nation. Ms. Perry's years in office also saw the development of more than 5,670 units of supportive housing to shelter the homeless and people suffering from mental illness and substance abuse. Ms. Perry earned a bachelor's degree in journalism and a master's degree in public administration from the University of Southern California. It's really an honor to have you with us today.
Thank you very much.
Councilwoman Perry, Mayor Eric Garcetti selected you to run the Economic and Workforce Development Department, EWDD, shortly after his election. I believe he was elected in 2013,
Correct.
right?
Correct.
What
yes.
was it? June of 2013.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Would you please explain what EWDD is and what does the department provide to public?
Yes, absolutely. So I served as general manager for the Economic and Workforce Development Department from 2013 until the end of December 2018. The Economic and Workforce Development Department oversees and funds a system of workforce development or worksource development centers. There were 17 of them. These are free centers that people can go into and get help and get training and get information on how to find a job. In addition to that, we oversaw the operations of approximately 16 youth source centers. That was for young people ages 16 through 24. And one of the specialty programs that the department oversaw and ran was year-round employment for young people. Their first job, 6 weeks with pay. And so obviously we had to go out and raise that money, particularly from the private sector, to make sure that a young person had a chance to go to work for 6 weeks and get training in financial literacy. And then the third part is the business source centers that functioned to support the growth and the establishment of small businesses and to teach small businesses how to access capital. That was the workforce side. And then there was the economic development side, where we were basically taking assets left over from the redevelopment agency and either developing them as affordable housing or mixed use projects throughout the city so that we could bring more housing, more retail activity, and obviously more jobs.
Perfect. I also read something that they would help with disconnected youth
Yes.
to find jobs.
Yes.
How do they help them? What do they exactly mean by disconnected youth?
Well, disconnected youth, it's just a term, but it usually refers to young people who've either dropped out of school or are not connected to any sort of system. And school is primarily because, they focus on young people ages 16 through 24 or young people who've aged out of the foster care system. And it's a program to reach out to these young people and to pull them back into a support system so that they can understand, one, how to get a job and then actually get a job, to find housing. And it may entail not only helping the young person, but their family too. But a lot of young people who've aged out of the foster care system don't have a support system. And so in some cases, many of the youngsters have children themselves. So it's a way to be able to find them supportive housing and to get them those services that they may need. They may need childcare. They may need transportation support. They may need health care. Just those things so that, young people don't fall through the cracks of our social service system and then end up homeless or the victims of violence and things like that.
Very good. For those who are interested in seeking assistance from this department, can you please provide contact information, like maybe, what do you suggest? Phone number, website, address?
Well, I always think for those who are able to go online, it's much faster that way. And it's the Economic and Workforce Development Department in the city of Los Angeles. And it would be .org, EWDD, City of Los Angeles .ewdd.org. Or you could go to, you can call in, obviously, 213-744-7300. And the department itself is located at 1200 West 7th Street in downtown Los Angeles. But if you're interested in going to a work source center, the fastest way to find one is to go online and look up the location that's closest to where you live. Same for the youth source centers and the business source centers. So you can go to an office that's, in your neighborhood, so you don't have to go so far.
Very good. You have also served on the Los Angeles County Small Business Commission and the Women and Girls Initiative. Would you like to share some of your activities and achievements when serving in this area?
Sure. I was appointed to the Small Business Commission for the County of Los Angeles, and I actually became president for, I think, 2 years. And I only resigned when I filed to run for county supervisor. But what our focus was is showing the community, teaching the community the extensive services that this, not only the commission offered, but the Department of Consumer Affairs for the support of small business. And the fascinating thing about the County of Los Angeles is the fastest growing sector in this market, the county, is immigrant owned and operated businesses, and particularly for women. And so we did a lot of outreach into various communities to say the county is here to support you, and to be culturally competent in that outreach as well. And whenever there was a community mobilization or engagement, it was extremely well attended. And the commissioners reflected the diversity of the county because each supervisor had several appointments. And so that work continues. On the Women and Girls Initiative, I was appointed to that also. And again, it was to view the relevance of what county programming was achieving in people's communities through the filter of women and girls. So not only was it intended, or it is intended to recruit more women for employment in non-traditional careers in the county, it is an examination over the course of 5 years to make sure or to ensure that the county's funding and systems are relevant to people's communities, particularly those issues of women and girls on all areas, healthcare and housing, women who are aging, elderly women, and what the county does for them, and whether that is on point or not and needs to have another look at. I mean, quite frankly, people are living longer and they're living independently, and they need different kinds of support as they age. And so, this and women statistically tend to outlive men. And so, it's completely relevant for this Commission Women and Girls Initiative to examine those issues as our population continues to grow, become more diverse, not only ethnically, but diverse in terms of age.
Correct.
Yes.
Okay, very nice. Ms. Perry, you're currently serving as the Executive Director of the Infrastructure Funding Alliance.
Yes.
Did I say it correctly?
Yes.
Okay. I would like to ask you to please explain more about your responsibility in that area.
So in addition to running for Los Angeles County Supervisor, I also run a nonprofit, and it is a network of people basically across the country who have various specialties in the development of infrastructure. Just to give you a very general example, you may hear a lot of conversation about our infrastructure is failing us. That would be our roads, our bridges, our water delivery systems, things like that. So we look at projects and work on projects that deal with ways to finance the much needed improvements that have been overlooked for the decades in cities and counties, so that we can correct past wrongs, if you will. We do that through financing tools like enhanced infrastructure financing districts. We're very engaged in conversation about a project involving the Los Angeles River, another project involving the movement of goods from containers to distribution centers by using renewable energy, so we can reduce truck trips and clean the air in those areas where there's just way too much pollution, and it affects people who live in that area in very significant ways. So that's just kind of an example of what we work on. But we develop policy that is forward-thinking to what California is going to need now and in the immediate future and in the greater future, because we're a state that's growing rapidly.
Correct. Can you mention a few of those things that California needs in the immediate future?
In the immediate future, obviously, we have to be very mindful that some parts of the state are already in a drought. And so we still, even though, things seem okay here, even though we've had all these fires, we have to continue to conserve water.
Right.
We have to focus very aggressively on the management of trash.
Okay.
And particularly right now, a lot of the debate is focused on plastic. And I think that in plastic, as it pollutes our waterways and our oceans, but it starts here at the local level. And then the development of our green canopy, so that we can resolve those issues. The communities that are heat islands, they're overheated because there is not enough tree canopy. And then the reduction of truck traffic and traffic in general by the establishment and the continuous build out of our light rail system, and the supportive transportation that goes along with that, so that people will use public transportation, particularly, and you can see a generational shift in that, because young people are much more receptive to that as they are to transportation on demand. And even the MTA system now has its own transportation on demand. So, we all have to be competitive so that we can get people out of their cars and reduce automobile and truck trips.
That would be wonderful. I think here in California, with public transportation and the way it is, I would say that every single person needs their personal car. But it would be wonderful if we don't have to drive everywhere and we can use the public transportation.
Yeah, I think, if you want to know what the future looks like, all we have to do is look at the habits of younger people. And then, millennials and the young ones who are coming up behind them. And they're much more flexible and not so dogmatic about, the things that we might have been, automatically when you're 16, you want a car. They may not necessarily feel that way. they feel differently. And that's why you see so many young people using the transportation on demand. I don't want to promote one company over another, but
no, yeah,
you know
but
what I mean?
when you
Yeah.
go to different states, you see that they're totally comfortable using the public transportation.
Yes, absolutely.
Because, but when it comes to California, especially Los Angeles, they have a hard time.
Well, we're still playing catch up here in Los Angeles, and that's part of the problem. But I think people finally realize the exposition line is an example of that. I remember years ago, the talk of even bringing a light rail down Exposition was met with, opposition. And I think people finally got tired of sitting in their cars for 2 hours. And now the line is up and running.
That's great.
Yeah.
Developing over 5,500 residential units to shelter the homeless and those suffering from mental illness and substance abuse were kind of mentioned. Is this project over or is it still in process?
Well, that was what I did in my district during my term of office, which was 2001 to 2013. And I worked very aggressively with nonprofit housing developers to get up as many units as I possibly could in the time that I had been given to serve. So, what was important to me is to get the projects built and get them done. And there were some beautiful projects done. And they were intended to provide affordable housing for children and their families, grandparents raising their grandchildren, people living with HIV and AIDS, and of course, people who are homeless, mentally ill, and battling things like substance abuse and mental illness. That's called permanent supportive housing. And of those units, 1,300 of those were permanent supportive housing. And for me, it was my highest priority, and it would be my highest priority again as a county supervisor because the problem has only gotten worse.
Right. I personally thank you and everyone else actually who was involved in this project because this is great. But with that being said, I think you might agree with me that we are still in need of more shelters and rehabs.
Yes.
Yeah. So after the election, if you are elected to the Los Angeles County Board of Supervisors, do you have any future plans to build more shelters and rehabs for those suffering from mental illnesses and addiction?
Yes. Well, the way things are now, we're not only in an emergency, we are beyond an emergency. We are on the other side of an emergency. And the thing that is frightening, and I saw this as a council person, is that, when you leave people out on the street, they are also subject to violence. And, I've told this story many times about meeting a lady. Basically, it was on the last night of her life where we asked her to come in for services. She said no, and then she got killed a few hours after we left her. And I talk about it a lot because it still bothers me a lot. And then, meeting a man in an alley and taking him out of the alley against his will to the hospital because he had gangrene in his leg. And if I had left him there, he would have died. And so leaving people out on the street will never be a solution. And I don't understand people who are timid about getting people off the street. That will be my first and highest priority. Now, when I was a council person, I did establish what is still the largest homeless shelter in the city. And I did it in a very discreet way in a warehouse area. And the clients were brought in by bus and they were taken out by bus. There was storage on site for their items, and the men were separated from the women. And, a lot of good sensitivities there. There's no reason why someone can't do that. I would like to do that on a much larger scale. But what I would also like to do is to work with some legal concepts so that we could work with people to become guardians for people who are out on the street or conservators or trustees so that we don't have to wait for them to come in, but use our legal system to compel people to come in to save their lives.
In what way? I'm kind of confused. So you mean if you're approaching somebody and offer to help them and they say no, you suggest that we will still go forward and help them regardless of their wish or...
Well, you cannot take people off the street against their will.
Right.
And that's the result of several lawsuits that have been brought against
even if it's
the city.
Saving their lives, we are not allowed.
Well, when you get into that question of, okay, the lady I talked about, no one knew that she was going to get murdered that night.
Right.
So, she would not have been defined as someone who was a danger to herself and a danger to others, which is called a 5150.
Right.
But if you see someone out there who's clearly a danger to themselves and a danger to others, then you can actually compel that person and take them off the street under a 72-hour psychiatric lockup. Now, that doesn't solve the problem because in 72 hours, they'd be back out again. So you have to have a strategy in place to have that person placed in some kind of protective care so that they can get help.
I see.
So they're not back out on the street in 72 hours and harming themselves or being at risk.
Thank you. دوستان به چند پیام بازرگانی گوش میدیم و برمیگردیم به صحبت‌های خودمون با Councilwoman جان پری ادامه خواهیم داد. اگر سوالی دارید که مایلید با میهمان امروز در میان بگذارید با تلفن 323 512 7264 با استودیو تماس بگیرید. بعد از شنیدن چند پیام با ما باشید.
KIRN Radio Iran. Radio Iran.
میگم جمال این پرونده تصادف چی شد؟
تصادفم؟ وکیلم خیلی مهربون بود.
حتما کلی خسارت برات گرفته.
خسارت؟ وکیلم خیلی برام وقت میذاشت. هر روز بهم زنگ میزد.
پول چقدر برات گرفت؟
پول؟ وکیلم خیلی بهم احترام میذاشت.
بالاخره بردی یا باختی؟
باختم. وکیلم همه فن حریف بود. از دادگاه تصادفات رفتیم تو، نزدیک بود از دادگاه خانواده بیایم بیرون.
ده همه فن حریف نه، بگو همه کاره و چی؟
هیچ کاره.
آفرین.
شماره‌شو بدم خدمتتون؟
نه جونم، ما میریم پیش متخصصش.
یک نام، یک تخصص. دکتر کامران یدیدی، وکیل تصادفات. 818 999 99 99. اگر کامران یدیدی وکیل شماست، پس شما هم یکی از هزاران برنده اید.
الو
دکتر جون سلام.
سلام رفیق عزیز و مریضم.
دکتر جون خسته شدم. میدونی من مدیکر دارم، از مکملام راضی نیستم. دکترامو نمیتونم برم، بعضی از داروام گرونه، بعضیارم بهم نمیدن. با بیمه که تماس میگیرم گرفتاری دارم، اعصابم به هم ریخته، کلافه شدم.
زنگ بزن به مجتبی فکورفر، متخصص بیمه های مکمل مدیکر در کالیفرنیا. با توجه به وضعیت جسمی و داروهایی که میخوری، اون همه مکمل‌ها رو برات مقایسه میکنه و مناسب ترین رو برات میگیره. هر موقع هم سوالی داری، مجتبی فکورفر با یه تلفن تمام سوالاتتو جواب میده.
چه خوب دکتر.
اتفاقا الان بهترین موقع است که باش تماس بگیری. از 15 اکتبر تا 7 دسامبر تنها زمانی که میتونی بیمه مکملتو عوض کنی. شمارهشو بنویس: 714 921 921 4.
یه بار دیگه بگو دکتر.
714 921 921 4. فکورفر عضو 08 هم هست. همین الان بهش زنگ بزن، مطمئنم پشیمون نمیشی.
ممنونم، خیالمو راحت کردی.
License number 0D57926.
سلام عزیزم.
سلام خانومم، برات یه خبر خوش دارم.
چه خبری؟
امشب پیمان و بچه‌ها شام میان خونه ما که با هم فوتبال ببینیم.
امشب؟
نگران نباش عزیزم، خانوماشون هم دارن میارن که شما تنها نباشی.
پس من الان میرم برمیگردم.
کجا با این عجله؟
برم وودلند هیلز مارکت از همون ساندویچ‌های خوشمزه بگیرم بیام.
احتیاجی نیست بری عزیزم، تو که میدونی من خودم حراج چهارشنبه‌های وودلند هیلز مارکت رو میس نمی‌کنم. همه چی گرفتم. ریحون، سبزی خوردن تازه، کلی میوه، نون سنگک، نون بربری، از همه مهمتر چند پوند گوشت فیله و مرغ و ماهی آماده گرفتم که کباب کنیم. از همون گوشتای کبابی آماده که همه میگیرن ترد و خوشمزه است، تو دهن آب میشه.
وودلند هیلز مارکت، کیفیت، تازگی، رضایت، هر روز تجربه نو. 19964 خیابان ونتورا. 818 999 4477. 818 999 4477.
تجربه متفاوت از شاهکار بیژن مفید شاپرک.
میخواره. پشت منو میخارونی؟
آره قربونت بشم. اول نیازشو بده، بعد هرچی دلت خواست بشین و شهر فرنگ تماشا کن.
یک شنبه 17 نوامبر 6 بعد از ظهر. 310 461 85 84 461 85 84. آهنگساز حمید سعیدی. گالری عشق، کیو مارکت، شاپرک میوزیکال .com. پذیرایی و پارکینگ رایگان. یک شنبه 17 نوامبر 6 بعد از ظهر. کارگردان مصطفی قربانپور. شاپرک.
Credit products are issued by WebBank, member FDIC. Rates and terms vary based on credit history. Amazon is not a sponsor of this promotion. Offer valid for loan products 90 days after today. Other restrictions apply. See website for details.
How do I feel? Awesome.
Like a huge weight has been lifted off my shoulders.
Hundreds of thousands of people are discovering the relief of a fixed-rate debt consolidation loan through Avant.
I paid off all my credit cards, and now I just have one easy monthly payment with Avant. And I don't have to worry about the rates going up.
Avant offers you access to unsecured debt consolidation loans from $2,000 to $35,000.
When I saw Avant was accredited by the Better Business Bureau, I knew that was the company for me.
Do you know how good it feels to only worry about one monthly payment?
Experience the relief of a debt consolidation loan through Avant. Plus, get a free $50 Amazon gift card after your first payment is made on time. To check your loan options and get this free offer, go to Avant.com and enter code 8282 when applying. Avant.com, code 8282. That's Avant.com, code 8282.
When I was little, I didn't talk for a long time. I was sensitive to lights and sounds, so I built secret hiding places where they couldn't get in. Sometimes I did the same things over and over, until one day I found out I had autism. My family got me help. Slowly, I learned how to live with it better.
Early intervention can make a lifetime of difference. Learn the signs at autismspeaks.org/signs. Brought to you by Autism Speaks and the Ad Council.
Sharing has never meant as much as it does now. Everything is up for the world to see. But what if the sharing could be used to make a difference? The National MS Society is building a place where everyone can share their experiences for good. If you have a story, share it. If you have a solution, share that too. Because together, we are stronger. Join us at wearestrongerthanms.org.
Right now, Doctors Without Borders medical teams are operating in some of the most remote and dangerous corners of the world. When front yards become front lines, at the crossroads of conflict and epidemic, where there are no hospitals, that's where we operate. Your response is critical to our response in places where few others will go. That's where we operate. Learn more at doctorswithoutborders.org.
A Republican lawmaker is defending President Trump's tweets while former Ukraine Ambassador Marie Yovanovitch was appearing before the House Intelligence Committee. Congressman Mike Turner of Ohio tells CNN State of the Union that the president was not trying to rattle her.
Well, there's a difference between I feel intimidated. I'm intimidated to testify, which is what Adam Schiff was saying. Adam Schiff was saying, well, you're intimidated now, so you won't testify completely or fully. And that's not the case. Clearly, she testified completely and fully. I was there. Hopefully, you watched it. She was in no means intimidated and prevented from testifying.
Voters in Louisiana have re-elected Democratic Governor John Bel Edwards in a tight race. Correspondent Diane Gallagher on Edwards' win.
He is a very conservative Democrat, and a lot of the voters here did allude to the fact that he is, in their words, pro-gun, his views on abortion, and the fact that they believe that he's been working on getting the state's finances in order after the Jindal administration.
I'm Ann Cates.
دنیای ما، جامعه ما.
Our world, our community with Debbie Amini.
سلام گرم مجدد من خدمت شما شنوندگان عزیز رادیو ایران. در خدمت میهمان امروز Councilwoman جن پری هستیم. تلفن تماس با استودیو جهت طرح سوالات خودتون با این عزیز رو اعلام میکنم. 323 512 72 64. Councilwoman Perry, I want to know, when is the election actually?
The election for the Los Angeles County Board of Supervisors is March 3rd, 2020. That is the same time as the presidential election. But listeners should know this, that there will be 11 days of early voting before the actual election day. The whole process is going to be different this time.
It's going to be a totally different process of voting.
Yes.
Okay, so we have to get familiar with that and hopefully go to the polls and vote. I think we have a question from one of our listeners. Can we answer the question, please? دوست عزیز روی خط هستین، بفرمایید.
Yes, hi. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
With all due respect, I really have difficulty understanding why local governments meddle with the setting of minimum wage. I understand that it's well-intended, but it absolutely does not produce the desired results. It's inflationary. It interferes with the law of supply and demand. And what happens is that everything goes up for the person who actually is in need of help, which is why you want to raise the minimum wage to start with. And by way of example, a waiter whose bulk of income comes from tips doesn't need any help, but gets that help anyway. But the dishwasher, for example, who needs that help and doesn't get that, is out of business because the establishment goes out of business. So why do we allow ourselves to interfere with the law of supply and demand, which is, after all, is the best rule that governs the free economy?
So I thank you for your question, sir. I think what you see is an effort to try to level the playing field and to prevent people from sliding into homelessness and to be able to afford to have a baseline of an income to be able to rent some housing and to be able to take care of their families, get food, and some basic health care. And, the law of supply and demand is, a great governor, but it's not dispositive of what it takes to be able to have a basic quality of life here in the city or the county of Los Angeles. And as you know, that it was always expensive to live here. That has no necessary linkage to whether the minimum wage was raised or not. It's the supply and demand, the cost of housing, gentrification, the concerns about displacement. And so raising the minimum wage is just one factor to recalibrate, to give people a chance to be able to at least stay in engaged and part of a community instead of slipping off and falling between the cracks and being lost and creating more people who are homeless because you put people at greater risk.
That I understand the intention, but it does not produce the desired results because everything goes up. When everything goes up, the person is actually worse off.
Well, if you
it's actually better to help those people who need help at the level that they need help. If it's housing, address the housing issue. If it is food, address the food issue. Whatever it is, if it's healthcare, address the healthcare issue. But do not produce inflationary forces in the society which victimizes the very poor people you're trying to help.
I appreciate your opinion. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Councilwoman Perry, what is your relationship with Persian community and their business?
Well, I have an extensive relationship with many people, many individuals who are members of the community, and it has been a long relationship and a very positive one. And I can tell you firsthand that the reason that areas like downtown have been transformed, it's primarily because of people who had a vision and invested their time, their money, and built their vision in downtown Los Angeles. And then they were many Persian families historically, going back to even the days of Mayor Bradley. And I think that the Persian community has had an enormous impact, not only culturally in enriching the culture of our region, and opening many eyes to the importance of thinking not only locally, but to think globally and to understand global issues and global economic issues and how they affect us here in the county of Los Angeles. I believe that the largest population of people who are Persian outside of Iran is here in California, in Los Angeles.
That's great.
And so the potential political power for the Persian community is vast and great. and needs to continue to grow. And obviously, the investment of families over several generations now has been dramatic in changing our worldview.
Very good. What departments will be interacting with Los Angeles County Board of Supervisors, and they would provide the most service to the public?
Well, the County of Los Angeles has many departments and many, many commissions, but let me just mention a few that people might be interested in. The department that specializes in workforce development, the department that deals with issues of people who are aging, so people who have elderly parents and people who are aging in their families, the Department of Family and Child Services.
DCFS.
Yeah, DCFS. And then the Department of Public Social Services, DPSS. I hate to speak in abbreviations or acronyms, but the department that provides public assistance to those who need help. Those are kinds of, and then Public Works, obviously. If you are living in an area that is unincorporated, which means you're not living in an actual city like Culver City or the city of Beverly Hills, but you live in an area like I live in Ladera, that's an unincorporated area. So the only form of government in the unincorporated area is the County of Los Angeles. So you'd be very interested in the types of services, Public Works, obviously, bulky item pickup, trash pickup, because you're going to care about how your community looks, and how it feels, and that it looks clean, it looks safe. And then obviously in the county, the sheriff is the law enforcement presence, and how that outreach is done, and the relationship that the sheriff's department has with the supervisor and with communities, and needs to be a good and positive one.
Very good. What is it that you can offer that the other candidates can't?
I think that I have a different perspective. And, sometimes I've heard other people comment, well, she's not even in office right now. And that's true. I'm not. And I'm actually happy about that because I took a break. Now, maybe I wouldn't have taken a break if I had had other options, but I've been in the private sector. So I understand what that means. I was a paralegal for 13 years.
Okay.
And I did advocacy work on behalf of people who were indigent. And then I worked for 3 elected officials as a legislative person, a chief of staff, and I did planning and land use. Then I ran the census for the city of Los Angeles for 1 mayor. Then I ran for office myself and won. I happened to be bilingual in English and Spanish, and I served as a councilwoman for 12 years. After that, I ran a department with a very large budget, with lots of responsibility and employees. So I think and now I'm running a nonprofit again. So I think what's very different about me is I've had a very vast experience, private sector, public sector, management, elected official, staff person. I'm very hands-on. And, people can talk about policy and they can talk about lofty ideas, but I've actually been able to implement them, do systems overhaul, and also build projects. And I think when you are elected at the local level, you need to produce things that people can see, that they can experience, that they can touch, that they can feel. It's one thing to talk about it. I get very frustrated when I hear endless calls for more reports on homelessness, and yet no action on actually getting people off of the street and into an emergency living situation with support services. I am in the now. I'm in real time. And I think that I'm a very straightforward person and very good at getting things done. And I already have a comment was made, well, that was in the past. Well, yes, that was in the past. My record is relevant because it gives people a very clear idea of the capacity that I have to bring results and to transform a community for the better and involve the people who are in that community in my decision-making process. And I think that's what my record says.
Wow. So I think if people want the job to get done, they should go to the polls in March and vote for you.
Yeah, that would be great. Thank you very much.
Let's answer another questions. Do we have the other person online? Go ahead. سوالتون رو بفرمین لطفاً.
الو
بفرمین جانم.
Yeah, I want to know, are you a Democrat or Republican?
I am a Democrat.
Yeah, because I like Democrats. I don't like Republican. I'm all thinking about the rich people, you know?
Okay.
That was straightforward.
And the second is, you know what, I think that you should do update this shelter program, because I talk sometimes with the shelter, homeless people. I say, why you don't go to the shelter? They say, oh, the shelter is no good. You know, they complaining. They say they feel they're not safe. I think you should do something about the shelter, you know.
I have to get elected first, and then I can do something about it. But thank you for the idea.
I think you're a nice person. I'm sure you're going to be elected.
Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have more calls that we have to answer? Now, what is your message for the Persian community?
My message to the Persian community is this. You have changed our lives for the better here in Los Angeles and in the county of Los Angeles. Your presence here going back, 40 years? 50 years?
It's at least, there are a lot of Persian people before the revolution,
yes.
But 40 years is when the majority came here.
And I was able to witness some dramatic change while I was an undergraduate at the University of Southern California. Lots of Persian students there. And,
What year was that?
Well,
I didn't
that's okay. That's okay. No, I graduated undergrad in 1977, and then I went to graduate school at USC. I got a master's in public administration in 1981.
Wow.
And during that time period, the Shah passed away, and things changed drastically, as you remember.
They did.
But the level of student activism was significant and dramatic, and the desire to study and to learn and the pursuit of intellectualism was very, very apparent. And I think for those who remained and those who came after that, it's been this incredible evolution in a rich culture that I think we were talking during the break about how diverse Persian culture is, that we could talk for probably weeks about that and not even begin to scratch the surface. So my message is one of gratitude and one of I guess a request to keep sharing and be inclusive and teach people, because there are a lot of people out there like me who are eager and hungry to learn more and to understand more and to vote, to make your presence very clear, very apparent. Vote on March 3rd, 2020. And obviously, I hope you'll vote for me. But you must vote, because in order to be taken seriously as a community, you have to show that you're a powerhouse and your vote is your power. And it shouldn't just be about people coming to the Persian community and just asking for money. It has to be about the Persian community will vote and they will, deliver as a block. And for the children, too. You have to teach the children the importance of voting and that everybody's vote matters. I can't tell you how many races I've seen where it's come down to a difference of maybe 1,000 votes or a couple of hundred votes, goes one way or the other.
Okay. Yes, I do encourage people to go to the polls and vote. I think part of it, maybe the reason they didn't vote before as much as they should have, is because maybe they didn't know the candidates that well. But now that they're getting familiar with what's happening and who their candidates are, I'm sure that they would definitely step forward into voting. We didn't talk about anything. I don't know if you have any plans in the future for schools and schools in the district that you're going to be elected to.
Well, as county supervisor, there is another department, the Los Angeles County Office of Education. And the supervisor has the authority to appoint a representative to sit on the board for the Los Angeles County Office of Education. That person has the ability to vote on the budget for the Los Angeles Unified School District. And for me, I'm very, very, I had been in the past very involved in all of the neighborhood schools, all of the schools in my former district. I actually had a deputy who specialized in education issues. To me, having that relationship with all of your educational systems is the fastest way to not only understand the needs of families, which is why I worked with people like Mrs. Sadler, Mrs. Hori Sadler, to make sure that there were healthcare clinics in the schools in my former council district. But it's the fastest way to reach people, families, is, because most people, they have their children in some kind of a school situation. And it's a way to talk to people. My focus obviously is on helping the neighborhood schools. For the first time in many, many decades, finally LAUSD built a lot of schools, and you could see parents walking their children to school in the morning, or participating in activities at night, because their kids weren't being put on buses and sent on the bus for an hour or 2 hours a day. And so it's better for a community, because it strengthens the community when you make it easier for everybody to see the school as the focal point, or a community focal point, so that they can spend more time, strengthening the school and being a part of the fabric of the community.
That's very true. And thank you so much for doing that. The other problem that we have, I know you talked about water conservation, but the problem that we usually face in Los Angeles is these fires that unfortunately is devastating to a lot of people. Any plans that would help to prevent these kind of fires? And also, once it happens, the firefighters will be more ready to go and fight with these fires?
Well, as far as the firefighters, they were ready, and they were heroic, and
I agree,
fighting against so many odds and challenges, and yet they overcame them. And those are heroes. That's what a hero looks like. And as a supervisor, we need to support that, and also need to support hiring more firefighters, obviously, and then making sure that their equipment is up to date and that they have the very best equipment that they have. But in the bigger picture of it, a lot of these fires are, the result of climate change.
Right.
We actually live in a desert, and we can't forget that. Los Angeles is a desert. And that's why we have to be conservative with our water. That's why we have to do things like remind people to clear brush clearance, to make sure you take those materials away from your homes that won't catch on fire, and not build your home with materials that are subject to being burned. To be very, very vigilant and understand that because of climate change, temperatures are rising. And that's what I was talking about earlier when I mentioned heat islands, and responding to that, a better tree canopy, more greening, more water storage capacity. I built 2 man-made wetlands in South Los Angeles, one at Slauson and Compton, the second one at 54th and Avalon. Part of that was to catch water runoff, urban runoff, and they look like nature preserves, but they are actually to, protect the water table and to remediate the water table, to attract wildlife, but to create more green space and more open space, and to cool the area down. We need more of that.
You were also talking about providing for firefighters, so they have better facilities to fight these fires.
Yeah, more
any
equipment,
better,
up to date.
Correct. So any budget that would be assigned to them?
Well, I wouldn't name a figure, and we'll see what happens when I get there. But it's important to understand, if you haven't learned the lesson this season or before about the seriousness, the loss, the impact of the entire state and the country of these fires, I don't know what it would take. So, the firefighters are on the front line of this. And so they are, are because they protect the lives of others at risk of their own life. So we need to make that a high priority, the highest priority.
Perfect. Thank you so much. I wish we had more time to continue this discussion, to learn from you and the vast information that you can share with us.
Thank you.
I think it's almost time to say goodbye. So we have another minute if you would like to add anything to today's interview.
So I hope what you'll do is you'll get Dean Logan from the County of Los Angeles to come and do some kind of a training, and I guess you're on YouTube also, to show people about the new voting procedures, the new voting machines. I tried one the other night. I was in Watts, and I was pleasantly surprised.
You liked it?
It was very easy to use, and it was intuitive, and, I was a little nervous, but, it was okay. And, for people who vote by mail, they'll still be able to vote by mail. And I think the best part of this is 11 days of early voting. And hopefully that'll get more people to vote.
Definitely, because they will have more time to vote.
Right.
I need to thank you one more time for accepting our invitation and dedication of your time to our show and our listeners. Thank you so much. Thank you.
دنیای ما، جامعه ما.
Our world, our community with Debbie Amini.